Thank you. Oh, so exciting. As many of you know, ordinarily this is quite a somber moment for the Sun Valley Writers Conference. It's opening night, and we devoted literati are about to recognize our 2025 Writer in the World honoree. It's deeply felt, and we take it seriously. But this year's moment feels enormously joyful, a relieving and rousing tribute to a great person and a great library of works that he has given to the world. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a celebration. For those I haven't met yet, for those I may not have met yet, my name is Marianne Dolan, and I'm up here on behalf of the directors of the Sun Valley Writers Conference to announce with excitement the recipient of this, our beloved literary prize. The Writer in the World Prize, by definition, recognizes a writer whose life's work embodies a rare combination of literary talent and moral imagination, helping us to better understand the world and our place in it. Past Writer in the World honorees include Barry Lopez, Margaret Atwood, and in 2023, a physician who brings enlightenment to the world of medicine and brilliance to his novels, our friend Abraham Verghese, who is here with us tonight somewhere. I also want to recognize another treasured guest, the lovely poet Rachel Eliza Griffiths, our recipient's remarkable wife. Welcome, Eliza. The citation honoring this year's recipient says the directors are delighted to present the prize to a renowned literary crusader for his spirited defense of the written word on behalf of writers and readers everywhere. This year's honoree grew up in Bombay and found his yearning for story as a young man reading to his siblings, as you will see in the short film to follow. Educated in England, he pursued his passion, and by 1981, he scaled the heights of the literary world with his second novel, Midnight's Children, which won not only the Booker Prize, but in 2008, the Best of Bookers, and it was selected by the Modern Library as one of the 100 best novels of all time. Author of 25 works of fiction and nonfiction, his books have included the novel Shame, The Satanic Verses, The Moor's Last Sigh, the dazzling epic Victory City, and most recently, his memoir, Knife, Meditations After an Attempted Murder. It was a finalist for the 2024 National Book Award. He is a much lauded past president of PEN America, and the Authors Guild has honored him for his unwavering advocacy for creative freedom and his courageous stand on censorship. Despite enduring profound personal risks, the Guild said, he has become a global symbol of resilience, inspiring countless other writers to raise their voices fearlessly. More on this shortly when our Writer in the World sits in conversation with his fellow writer and great friend, the delightful COLUM McCANN. See? They like you. Our conference particularly honors this writer for his humanity, warmth, and humor. He is a creator of enormous generosity. In a conversation with New Yorker editor David Remnick, he commented, when asked, on his remarkable productivity. "I've got nothing else to do," he said. "I would like to have a second skill, but I don't. I always envied writers like Günter Grass, who has a second career as a visual artist. I thought how nice it must be to spend a day wrestling with words, then get up and walk down the street to your art studio and become something else. I don't have that, so all I can do is this. As long as there is a story that I think is worth giving my time to, then I will. When I have a book in my head, it's as if the rest of the world is in its correct shape. Today, he is the most recognized champion of the written word in the world. A writer's writer, oft-repeated final quote, who's in his dazzling Victory City, might be considered his creed. Words are the only victors. Tonight, I report with delight, he is here with us. Salman Rushdie.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. All right.
Wow.
Yeah,
How
they like you.
wonderful. How wonderful. Writer in the world.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Well, we're all writers in the world,
Yeah.
having no other alternative
Yes.
until Mr. Musk makes Mars available.
Reminds me of that line, we must love this poor earth because we have not seen another.
Yeah, exactly. And what's not to love? I mean, look at this beautiful place we're in.
Absolutely beautiful. So what does an award like this, though, what does it make you feel, you know, after the Booker and the Booker of Bookers and Disturbing the Peace and Peace Awards and German Book Awards? How does this work?
You know, I've won some awards,
Yeah.
and I've not won some awards. Mm-hmm. And winning is better.
Yeah.
But you reach a point in life when you get Lifetime Achievement Awards,
Right.
if you're lucky. They feel a little bit like gold watches, you know. Here you are, your lifetime service, now bugger off. Leave the stage. No, I mean, seriously, I mean, I think it's... What's nice, as I was seen saying in that film, is to be recognized for the work that you do.
Yes.
You know, and that's it. I mean, all I ever wanted to do was, you know, was to tell stories.
Well, I have to say, you know, it's been a life of remarkable courage, but also as a writer to watch it down over the years, I feel that you have held the world of literature together for the rest of us in many ways. And doing this as an activist and doing it as somebody who's willing to speak out has been a remarkable thing to watch.
Well, thank you so much. But thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you know, my life has involved bouncing around between quite a lot of different places.
Yes.
And sometimes I've envied the writers who have the opposite experience, you know, who are so deeply, deeply rooted in one place. You know, a kind of Faulkner, you know, where you can make a lifetime of masterpieces out of a tiny patch of the world. And I've often thought how nice that would be, just to have an inexhaustible knowledge of one place.
Well, you're sort of a man of three countries.
Well, that's it, you see. I mean, I have this, so I don't have that, but I've got this, which is, you know, travel broadens the mind, I guess. You know, and I've got certainly 3 cities, you know, and I think of myself as more of a city writer than a country writer, you know. So Bombay, London, New York, more than India, Britain, America.
Tell me about that 10-year-old boy that we saw in the film, and what was he like?
I was a very good kid. My sister was naughty. So she would behave badly and I would get her out of trouble. But she would like beat people up for me if they were not nice to me.
And your father was very important.
My father was, you know, he was a brilliant man, but unfortunately, he had a bad temper, but it was made much worse by alcohol. So we had quite a difficult relationship for a long time. But I'm happy to say that we made it up before he died. I mean, he's been gone a long time. I mean, he died in 1987. So, but he appears in my dreams.
Oh, he does?
Yeah,
Still?
not all the time, but from time to time. And he's very nice in my dreams.
Okay.
He's loving and affectionate and funny and wise. He's much better dead than alive.
Do you have a specific memory of him? Like, I think of my father sometimes, and I flash back to being 8, 9, 10 years old, and I think watching him shaving, for instance, is one of those things, just being fascinated. What is this world? What is this man? And what does it mean? Do you have a specific memory of your mum or your dad? Like
Well, shaving, my father was always, in the mornings as children, we knew that he was actually very relaxed and funny and nice to have around until he shaved.
Until he shaved.
Then we would have breakfast together and it would be great.
Not a Burma shave, then?
No, then he'd go off and, with a safety razor. But he came out of the bathroom having shaved in a different frame of mind. And then, stay away. So, yeah, shaving is also my memory.
And your mum?
Well, she was a gossip. Very good one. I learnt a lot.
Do you think writers are good gossips?
Well, I think, yeah. I mean, what else is it for? No, but I mean, I do think, I remember reading something that Garcia Marquez said, that in his case it was his grandmother who used to tell him stories about everybody in the family and in their circle. And he always said that his writing style came out of his grandmother, the way she told stories. Wasn't my grandmother was unbelievably bad-tempered and scary. Scary. She hated having her photograph taken. One time, somebody tried to take her picture, and she grabbed the camera and smashed it over his head. And he fell down. We thought she killed him. He survived.
You later talked about photographs being a moral moment.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. Well, I mean, that's in The Ground Beneath Her Feet, I think, where the narrator is a photographer, and it says something like a photograph is a moral decision taken in 1/8 of a second.
Yes.
Or 1/16 or 1/32.
Do you take photographs?
Not very well. No.
But you do with your language.
But I'm married to a photographer, so I can't claim to be a photographer because she knows better.
So just to loop back to that young boy then goes to England on his own.
Yeah, well, my father went with me until I started the school term, boarding school.
You went to rugby school.
Went to rugby school where they invented that game with pointy balls, which Americans then stole and reimagined.
As American football. Did you play rugby?
It was compulsory. I had to play 3 times a week in the winter on frozen fields.
Were you a scrum half? What?
No, I was a prop forward.
Okay.
Because
were you still that good boy?
I was awful at it. I've never had any sporting talent. The only game I've ever been able to play with any degree of skill is table tennis. I'm kind of not. I'm now terrible because now I've only got one eye, which is not good for ping pong. But I used to be all right.
Can you capture that adolescent then, when you were just about to finish what Americans would know of as high school?
Yeah.
And did you want to write already at that particular
stage? I did. When my parents told me, I don't remember this, when I was a kid, and people would say, "What do you want to do when you grow up, little boy?" I would not say I want to go to the moon or, whatever. I would say I want to be a writer. And of course, when you're little, I would say this when I was 10 years old, and of course, at that age, you don't know what that means. What I think I meant was that I loved being a reader, and I think a lot of us are born out of readers. The first love is the love of reading. And the love of writing comes as a result of that. There's only one writer I've ever known who says the opposite. You want to guess? V.S. Naipaul. I saw at the Hay Festival in the UK, Naipaul being interviewed on stage by our friend Bill Buford, then editor of Granta magazine. And Bill asked him some innocent question like, who are the writers you feel have had an important meaning for you? And he drew himself up And he said, I'm a writer, not a reader.
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
I just thought, you're not telling the truth.
Right, yeah.
I don't know any writer who's not a reader.
Who were you reading then when you were like a teenager and just before
I
you
was
went to
reading
college?
enormous amounts of science fiction.
Really?
Yes, I knew a lot about, like I'm talking about in the 60s, when I was a teenager. This is what now people who know a lot about science fiction think of that as a golden age. And there were these magazines which I used to get hold of, which had wonderful, they were called things like Amazing. And there was one called FNSF, which was fantasy and science fiction. And there was Astounding. That was a magazine. And you would get two kinds of writing. You would get fantasy writing, and then you would get hardcore science fiction, which was based on something scientific.
Right.
And I just loved it all. I swallowed it up. And then suddenly, almost like a light switch being switched off, I lost interest. And part of it was to do with, a lot of it is very, very bad, a lot of it was very, very badly written. Of course, there were the exceptions to that. Ray Bradbury, Kurt Vonnegut, Arthur C. Clarke, Ursula Le Guin, etc. So there's them. But then there were a lot of people with, I'm not going to say who the bad writers were, but I just got disenchanted by the prose.
Right.
And also, now it's different because now there's a lot of brilliant women in the field. Then it was a very, very male-dominated field. And the women in science fiction stories were awful. They either were had 3 breasts and were unbelievably Barbarella-like, or they were lab technicians with white coats on, and there was nothing else. So it was either sex or science.
Yeah, there were a lot of women of questionable virginity.
All of that. And I got turned off by how bad the women were.
So tell me this then.
I come from a very women-heavy family.
Right.
I had 3 sisters, no brothers. I always pointed out to them that this was unfair because they had sisters and a brother. And I had only sisters. Not fair. And even in my larger extended family, there's many more female cousins than male cousins. I grew up in a very female environment, and I think that's helped me a lot.
Can we leapfrog forward then just a little bit to those 13 years that were talked about in the film and what Samuel Beckett might call the vivifying air of failure?
Yeah, the years of struggle.
Yeah.
Well, I had to work in advertising.
But you were great in advertising.
No, I was okay. Great. There are people who are great at advertising. I had 1 or 2 successes, but I couldn't wait to leave. And then when Midnight's Children, in those days, advertising was a bit different. You could get a part-time job. So I had a kind of 2 or 3 day a week job, and that allowed me to have 4 or 5 days a week to write what turned out to be Midnight's Children, which took me 5.5 years to write. And then when I finished it, and people seemed to like it when it was coming out, I thought, okay, time to quit. So I went to see the person who's rather oxymoronically called a creative director. I went to see him and I said, I quit. I wrote this book, I'm going to be a writer, and I quit. And he said, oh, you want a raise? I said, no. I've always really secretly wanted to be a novelist, and now it seems I can be a novelist, so I'm going to not be a copywriter and write dog food ads. I'm going to go and write my next novel. And he said, oh, you want a big raise? And I said, no. I said, let me explain it to you. My contract says I have to give you 1 month's notice. So just to say to you, in 32 days, I will not be coming into the office. And he said, oh, I don't think we can give you as much as that.
Yeah. And Midnight's Children, of course, was a spectacular success and been a national epic and an international epic. But where did it bubble up from?
Well, it started smaller, you know. I mean, I'd written this first novel, which was kind of a science fiction novel and didn't do very well. Nobody liked it except Ursula K. Le Guin, who loved it.
Good.
So that's all right then.
Yeah. But you were smarting a little bit from...
I had to rethink everything about what I was thinking about how I was thinking about writing. And Midnight's Children came out of... I mean, it took me a long time to understand what I was doing. Yeah. And then suddenly, everybody said I was an overnight success, but it had been 13 years.
Right.
It's a long night.
Yes.
But it was very surprising to me because, you know, it's this very big novel, very long novel, written in kind of weird English.
It's beautiful.
With almost no white characters in it. Right. One Englishman who gets discarded about a quarter of the way through the book. And he's a small character anyway. I thought, I wasn't even certain that it would be published.
Right.
But fortunately, it got into the right hands.
It's a brave book, and at a certain stage, I don't know whether it was when you were writing that or it came afterwards, you talked about language being courage.
Yeah, I just thought, you know, especially after the failure of the first book,
right.
I thought, okay, so there's two ways you could go. You can be much more conservative as a writer, write safe little books, or you could do the most dangerous thing you can think of.
Right.
And I thought, do that.
That's great.
I thought, do that.
Do you think you've been doing that consistently since then?
Yeah, I thought, go for broke. You know, I believe, and there are people who disagree with this, that where art happens is at the edges, not in the middle.
Interesting.
That you know, people pushing the frontiers outwards. That's where the great writers are.
So Kurt Vonnegut, whom I'm sure you probably met at one
I did
stage,
meet him a couple of times.
He said that as writers, we should be continually jumping off of cliffs and developing our wings on the way down.
Well, he's right.
Yeah.
He's right. And he did that.
Yeah.
You know,
but did you have to learn that courage?
No, you learn by failure.
Right.
And that's why you were saying about this Beckett thing.
Yeah.
It is actually very helpful.
Did you ever meet Beckett?
I never met Beckett. I wish I had.
Oh.
I know people who met Beckett, like Paul Auster met Beckett.
Oh.
I'm very envious.
There are a lot
Apparently he was lots of fun.
Oh, I actually think he's a very funny writer, don't you?
I do too, but apparently he was, you know, nice to have a drink with.
Yeah, go down to Café du Magot in Paris and, you know.
I don't know, did he do that?
Yes, that's what he did.
Was he a de Magot guy?
He was a du Magot guy.
Along with Sartre and Simone.
Yeah. We were talking, though, a little bit earlier, just backstage, about our local boy, Mr. Hemingway.
Oh, yes.
How do you feel about Hemingway as you were...
Well, I have huge admiration because nobody else can do that stuff.
Right.
And actually, later in his life, he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
You know,
which brought about terrible tragedy.
Terrible, yeah. But I mean, I have a volume which I don't even know whether it's just a British edition or if it's available in America, which is called The First 49 Stories.
Okay.
And it puts together, you know, Men Without Women and, you know, those extraordinary early books of short stories. And they're just beyond brilliant, beyond great. Yeah, so, I mean, last time I was here, I was here in 2016. I did go and pay my respects both to the house and to his grave. And I rather liked it when I went to his grave that people were leaving him little gifts. Somebody had left a baseball hat for him on the grave. And somebody had left an open bottle of Maker's Mark bourbon with a glass.
The difference between you and me, Salman, is I would have taken a shot.
You would have, yeah. I thought, no, respect. That bottle's not for me, it's for him.
What other writers did you current that were around during your lifetime? Did you get a chance to meet Marquez? And
I never met Garcia Marquez. I met quite a lot of the writers of the what was called El Boom.
Yeah.
That extraordinary generation. So I met Vargas Llosa, I met Carlos Fuentes, I met quite a few of them, but I never met Garcia Marquez. But I came close. I was in Mexico City some reason or other. And I was having dinner at a friend's house, and one of the other people who was at the dinner was Carlos Fuentes. And he said to me, of all the people and writers in the world who haven't met each other, it's crazy that you haven't met Gabo. Right. And I said, well, normally he lives in Mexico City, but apparently he's in Havana visiting Fidel, which he was. Right. And so Carlos left the dining table, and he came back in, and he said, there's somebody on the phone you have to talk to. And he went and he called Garcia Marquez in Havana and said, there's somebody at the dinner table you have to talk to. And then it was this very strange conversation, because he pretended that he didn't understand English, which is a lie. Right. He actually understood it quite well. And my spoken Spanish is absolutely awful, but I can understand a bit. And we both had the same, approximately the same level of not very good French. So we had this conversation in 3 languages for quite a long time, for like an hour. And in my memory of the conversation, there's no language problem. Right. We're just talking to each other.
Did anybody record that conversation?
No, nobody did. But he said to me a thing which I'm now again going to boast about, because I've been boasting about it since he said it. What he said is that, you know, by the age I've reached, I don't very often read much outside the Spanish language. He said, but there's 2 writers that I want to know what they're doing. And one is J.M. Coetzee and the other is you.
Nice.
I thought, thank you, I'll take that to the bank, you know.
Absolutely, that's a fantastic thing.
Yeah, so we had that kind of meeting, but on the phone.
Switching gears, you say in the beginning of Golden House, you say, in these are cowardly times, in these are degenerate times, the very word goodness has been emptied of meaning.
Yeah, it's kind of angry, right? I mean, there was a moment there where I wrote 3 consecutive novels which were trying to make sense of America.
Yes.
They're very unlike each other. You know, the first one has got this title which is too long, 2 years, 8 months, and 28 nights.
1001 Nights.
Which, if you do the math, is 1001 nights, except somebody always stands up from the audience and says, not in a leap year. And I say, well, it's not in a fucking leap year. And I mean, in that book, I tried to do, sort of be somebody arriving in America with suitcases full of literary ideas from elsewhere. So my suitcases are full of the Arabian Nights, you know. So I thought, let me get that out, get the genies out, you know, and throw them at the Empire State Building and see what happens. So that's a book which is a highly fantastic, fabulous novel. Then there's The Golden House, which is quite a naturalistic novel, anyways. And then there's Quichotte, which is sort of everything at once.
Yes.
Comedy, science fiction, absurdism, all of it. So use every technique you've got to try and understand what the hell is going on here.
So are these our cowardly times? Are these our degenerate times?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably a little bit more true now than then.
How does the writer then, how does they stand up and begin to talk about what's going on?
Well, one of the things I'm proud of is that no novel I've written has ever contained the words Donald Trump. Now, I just thought I don't want him in my book. He's already in all our heads too much.
Right.
I don't want him in my book. There is a character in the Golden House, broadly speaking, covers the Obama years.
It does.
You know, those what feel like fairy tale 8 years. And there eventually rises up a character. I remember reading somebody writing about comic strip heroes, and that Metropolis, where Superman lives, is uptown in the spring. Batman lives in Gotham City, which is downtown in the winter and really in bad shape.
Right.
Well, so I thought, so then I'm writing about New York, and I think about Superman City and Batman City. And I think, well, I don't want them in the book, but in the end I had the Joker. He runs for president and wins.
So you're equal. I mean, it strikes me that you are a writer who has been sort of consistently equal to the times.
Well, I just think, what I think, you see, is that when people talk about magic realism, they don't notice the word realism. Whereas for me, everything I've written has been a way of responding to where I find myself, physically, metaphorically,
Right.
you know, and the books feel to me like reports from that consciousness going through time, you know, and I mean, I think they're about real things, you know.
Absolutely. Now, talking about real things, you do say at one stage, we all owe death a life.
Yeah. Well, nobody gets out alive, you may have noticed.
That's true. But you've had many times when people have called and have tried to say to you that your life is now in the hands of death, and you have somehow
Got away with it
to the moment.
Got away with it so far. You know, as I say, nobody gets away with it.
Right.
In the end, I mean, there's that wonderful scene in Ingmar Bergman's great film, The Seventh Seal, when the knight returning from the Crusades meets death in black garments, and death has come to collect him. And what he does is he challenges death to a game of chess. And death agrees that he will not claim him as long as the game lasts. You know? So the trick of it is to make the game last as long as possible. And that's what we all are. We're all playing chess.
Yes.
Against death.
Unless you get a mutual mate and you can take death down at the same time, which is a chess term.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course the interesting thing about chess is that the king is the weakest piece on the board.
Exactly.
And the queen is the strongest.
So you wrote this you wrote this incredible memoir about confronting death. It's called Knife. I'm sure most of you have read it. If you haven't read it, you should read it as soon as you possibly can.
Available in your bookstore now.
But I want to talk about it, and I'd love for you to talk about it as a love story.
Yeah. Well, you know, what I thought was, for a while I didn't want to write about it, and then I thought I did want to write about it. But what I asked myself is, you know, if I'm just to tell the story of what happened that day in Chautauqua, that's what, 15 pages, 20 pages? That's not a book. You know, that's an article.
Right.
So I thought, if there's a book here, what's the book? And I came to think of it as a book about three people and three things, like a triangle. And at one point of the triangle is me, and at the other 2 points of the triangle are the man who tried to kill me and the woman who loved me. So you have love and death. You know, you have hatred and love. You have bigotry and liberty, and me. The moment I had that triangular shape, I thought, well, that's a book I can write. So it's a book about three people, and I'm only one of them.
It's really interesting, because I'll go again to Beckett, because Beckett says it's the job of the artist now to find a form that accommodates the mess.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and he certainly did.
So
and also, you know, Beckett, you know this, Beckett was stabbed.
Right.
You know, and almost killed.
That's correct.
And James Joyce paid his hospital bills.
Oh, I didn't know.
Not so well known.
There you go.
James Joyce, not the most generous asshole in the world.
Yeah. He wasn't an arsehole, but he wasn't the most generous man in the world. Yeah.
Anyway, and Beckett then went to the trial of it was a pimp, the man who stabbed him was a pimp. And he went to the trial, and he said to him, why do you do it? And the guy said, I don't know. C'est pas, monsieur. Je m'excuse. I'm sorry. I don't know, I'm sorry. Useless. Useless information. And so I thought, there's no point asking that question, because I'll get back some useless information. So I thought, instead I'll do what I do. I'll make him up. So there's a chapter in the book the otherwise completely non-fictional book, which is completely imaginary. It was an imagined conversation between me and him.
And you really take him on.
Yeah, I thought, it's like 30 pages.
It's an extraordinary sequence.
And I just thought, if you're going to do that, you've got to give him some of the good lines.
Right.
You can't keep all the good lines for yourself.
You do take him down, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's my book.
Yeah.
But I wanted to have him in the book.
Right.
And because he's part of the story.
Have you seen him since? Did you go to
I was at the trial. I had to testify.
Right. But you saw him in the flesh?
Yeah, I was in the same courtroom.
Did you catch eyes with him? Or?
I looked at him. I don't think he looked at me. At least I didn't see him looking at me. We were on opposite sides of the courtroom.
Yeah.
I thought he looked like a little squirt.
Like a which?
A little squirt. He looked like
a squirt.
He looked very unimpressive.
Yeah.
But I thought, little squirts can kill you.
Yeah. Well, he could have stepped out of some sort of Springsteen background. He's a New Jersey kid who,
with no criminal record.
With none, yes.
And I just thought, for somebody with no criminal record to go from zero to murder, that's a big jump.
Right.
And then to have no knowledge of the person you're trying to kill. Like, by his own admission, read 2 pages of something I wrote, which he didn't remember.
Yeah.
But to be willing to commit murder. I mean, I said somewhere in the book, I said that if I was writing that character and showing it to my editor, he would say this is undermotivated. The character doesn't work. Because why would he do that? And so that's what the book tries to get into in this fictional conversation.
And it succeeds in an extraordinary way. But you just mentioned James Joyce, and Joyce in Ulysses says, love loves to love love. And you very explicitly talk about your relationship with Eliza as, this very important love story that rescues this thing. And we're talking about goodness.
Yeah.
We're talking about the possibility of optimism against all available evidence. And somehow you rescue out of this morass.
Yeah, love, it seems like a cliche, right? But love will save you.
Right.
I think I was reading something the other day about the idea of civilization. What does it mean, civilization? What does a society have to be for you to call it civilized? What are the essentials? And of course, the different people have written about this and have had different essentials. But the one I liked was that the 2 things this particular essay said that you need order, you need law, and you need love. You need the idea of love. Because from the idea of love, there follows generosity, goodness, kindness. These things make a civilization.
Are you an optimist, Salman?
I am ridiculously optimistic, and I've often teased for it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you get people calling you sentimental or...
No.
For your optimism? Or
no, I don't think I've been called sentimental.
No? So
I've been called a lot of things.
Yeah.
But not sentimental.
No, but so optimism does seem sentimental to certain people.
Well, optimism is just the belief that the worst doesn't have to happen.
Right.
And one of the things that, before I was a writer, my university subject was history. And one of the things you learn from the study of history is that history is not predestined. History doesn't run on tram lines.
Right.
It goes through radical changes very rapidly, unexpectedly. There's this wonderful collection of short stories by Grace Paley, which has this great title called Enormous Changes at the Last Minute. And history, that's history.
Yeah.
I often thought that if we were having this conversation on this month in 1989, and I said the Soviet Union will have gone by Christmas, you would have thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
And yet, well, it wasn't Christmas, it was the day after.
Right.
But by the end of the year, and I know there's somebody trying to put it back together again, but that's another story.
But the impossible happens.
The impossible, the completely unexpected thing happened.
Right. And then as an optimist, I'm going to embarrass you now because I will say this. I taught a class in New York once about the Nobel speeches. And one of the really interesting things that if you look at the Nobel speeches for literature, from Beckett through Faulkner, through Toni Morrison, through Seamus Heaney, that all of them had a current of optimism at the end, sometimes in the most difficult of circumstances, even Harold Pinter. And the reason I'm going to embarrass you is because I really hope that I get a chance to hear that speech from you. And I think, yeah. So, actually, that's the first time I was able to shut him up.
Any Swedes in the room? If so, please discuss with the relevant people.
What is your best book?
What is my best book?
Yeah.
You're asking me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I know which is my favorite book.
Tell me.
Haroun and the Sea of Stories. Because I wrote it for my son in a very bad moment of my life. I wrote it in '89 and came out in 1990. And that's a work of optimism.
It's a beautiful book.
And it's a fairy tale.
It's a book for children.
It's a book for children. But I thought, if you think about movies, there's a certain kind of movie where you don't ask yourself, is it for children or grown-ups? It's for everybody. Right. Star Wars, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? There's a whole range of films which grown-ups get one kind of pleasure and kids get another kind of pleasure.
Yeah.
And I thought there must be a way of doing that in a book.
Yes.
So I wanted to write a book which my then 10, 11-year-old son would read and get 10, 11-year-old pleasure. And that what I thought of it is then he will grow up and read it again as a grown-up, and he'll discover it's a different book. And that sort of happened. He was also a very good literary critic. Because I was writing the thing, and I'd written like 2 or 3 chapters. And I thought I'd better see if this is going down the right
path.
So I asked him to read it, so he read it. And I said, what do you think? And he said, yeah, Dad, it's good. And I detected a slight lack of enthusiasm. So I said, it's okay, is it really good? And he said, well, Dad, some people might be bored. He said, I'd read it, of course, but some people. I said, well, why would some people be bored? I said, bridling slightly. And he used this wonderful phrase. He said, it hasn't got enough jump.
Ooh.
Jump.
Ooh, nice.
And I thought, actually, I know what that means.
Yes.
I thought I could do jump. But give me that back.
Yeah.
And I rewrote it and then showed it to him again. He said, yeah, now it's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Now it's leaping.
Now with added jump. Yes,
Nice.
It was the best piece of editorial advice I was ever given.
Very interesting. Sometimes we become the sons of our sons, right?
Yeah.
We learn these things from our children.
Because they tell you the truth, little wretches.
So, who now tells you the truth?
Well, one of the things about living with another writer is that there's nowhere to hide. There she is. Yeah. No, I mean, fortunately, we really like each other's work.
Good.
Otherwise, let's not consider that possibility. But no, I mean, I don't know about you, I've been quite lucky in my editors.
Yes.
I had this wonderful editor at Random House called Susan Campbell, and she sadly died young. And now I have another wonderful editor at Random House called Andy Ward, and he's been very helpful. I mean, for example, just as one detail, when I showed him the draft of Knife, he said, there's one thing that doesn't seem to be here that I think should be here. And I said, what was that be? And he said, well, very, very few people have the experience that you've had of getting very, very close to death and then coming back. Tell us about it.
Okay.
What's that like?
Right.
And so what I found myself doing is saying all the things it was not like. For example, no tunnel of light. You know, no angels, no harp music, no gates.
Violence.
I mean, nothing except the feeling that you're about to die. And it just felt like an ending. What the thing it showed me is that this is an ending. This is not a stage on the way to something, some finer future.
Interesting. I wanted to ask you then, and I'm going to really put it out there. I wanted to ask you about God. If there is then an ending. What is your relationship? You grew up in what you called a sort of irreligious...
Well, I mean, it wasn't a religious household. Not really.
But irreligious, right?
Huh?
Didn't you say at some stage it was specifically
Oh,
not?
my father was really not religious, and my mother didn't want us to eat pork. And that was religion in our household. No bacon. I remember when I got to England to boarding school, I went to the school shop and bought a ham sandwich. And ate it with great, my first truly revolutionary act. And nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
No thunderbolt. I thought, oh, I have just disproved the existence of God. Ham sandwich did it.
But your existence, or the existence of God now, I mean, your relationship to it, I mean, does it come about, does it just that, say, somebody's influence enters the air?
No, I've always thought God is something, and, well, not just God, but in the polytheistic religions, the gods are things which we have invented in order to explain existence.
Right.
And basically, religion exists to answer two great questions. The first question is, how did we get here?
Right.
The question of origins. You know, how did here get here?
Right.
You know? And the second question is the question of ethics. Now that we're here, how shall we live? Right. What is right action? What is wrong action? Are there commandments? Are there no-go areas? You know, etc. So ethics and origins. And every religion is about that. And my view is, we know enough about origins now to know that, beautiful as the stories of the great religions may be, they're all wrong. The world was not created by 6 days, in 6 days by an entity that rested on the seventh day. That's not what happened. The world was not created by a God who churned the primal material in a great urn. And that was the Milky Way. You know, that very nice,
right.
Pretty, not true. So my view is the question of origins, I don't need that to be explained to me through religions.
Right.
And the question of ethics, I mean, frankly, I don't want to learn that from archbishops and mullahs.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
who do you want to learn
consider the
from?
Catholic Church, if you will. I mean, I just think, you know, ethics are things that we, especially in free societies, we work out. And our ethical senses change. You know, there was a point in this country where it was considered moral to have physical ownership of other people. That was considered to be within the moral good. Then that idea was rejected.
Right.
You know, and so on. So societies evolve, and as they evolve, their moral sense evolves. Sometimes it evolves backwards, such as now.
Yes.
Yes. But what I'm saying is that ethics are something that I think I am more interested in, how societies begin to define what their ethics should be, you know, without the intervention of whatever form of religious interlocutor.
Would you say that writers do that?
If they're really very good.
Right.
I mean, 2 or 3 writers do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but I do think that there is a moral dimension to the literary art.
Right.
You know, I don't think, certainly at the very highest level, it's essential. You know, you can't imagine Kafka without a moral dimension.
Right.
or Joyce, or Dostoevsky,
Right.
or any of the first division. When you get down to entertainment, it doesn't necessarily have to have.
Right.
Which is not to criticize. I mean, there is a place for entertainment.
Absolutely.
But great literature, I think, has a moral dimension.
Right.
And sometimes you don't agree with it. I mean, I just was writing something about, we were talking backstage about Voltaire's Candide, which is great classic and very important for a discussion of the kind of ideas that we're kicking around here. Yeah. But Voltaire was the most hideous anti-Semite. And every time a Jewish character arrives in Candide, it's very badly treated.
Right.
And openly racist writing. And this is Voltaire, a great defender of freedom and liberty. So, nobody's perfect.
Don't you think that we live in this era where truth is being parsed out in very interesting ways? We talk about it being the post-truth era,
yeah, well,
and what is a fact and what is not a fact.
Well, we live in, in the age of lies.
Right.
And sometimes, I think maybe you've been asked, I've certainly been asked, why do you write fiction when everybody's lying their heads off anyway?
Yes.
Aren't you just making things worse?
But fiction means to shape, it doesn't mean to lie.
No, I think there's a thing that Margaret Atwood said, which I will paraphrase because I can't remember exactly. What I remember her saying is that fiction, whatever its method might be, whether it's realistic or fabulist or whatever, or what she calls speculative fiction, the purpose is always to move towards some kind of truth.
Right.
Some kind of truth about who we are as human beings, why we do the things we do, what we are at our best, what we are at our worst, why are we like that?
Yeah.
Truth. Whereas the lie is a way of obscuring the truth. So although fiction and lies might seem as if they're related, they're actually in an interesting way opposites.
Right.
And I'm on this side.
Yes, you were very firmly on this side, and our time's just about up. And I want to thank you for this extraordinary chance to chat with you on stage.
Yeah, somebody else?
One more question.
Got one more.
Well, we got one more question. You like life. Why do you like life so much?
Because there's no alternative.
Thank you. Salman Rushdie, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.